Hello and welcome to Geek of All Trades podcast.
Your podcast for all things geeky. I'm Greg Barlow.
And I'm Douw Pretorius.
And today you're joining us for episode 68. What did we call the title again? Our
Victory Road.
Yeah, that's it. So this is in reference, firstly, to our news headlines as we draw ever closer to the final fearsome Fantabulous 4. And upcoming Warhammer 40k Nationals. And in fact, the sort of slow revival of competitive wargaming in meat space, I suppose.
Yeah. You say slow, but I mean, it's like 42. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, no. Well, slow in that it's been a while.
It has. Those of us who pre-vaccination kept away from tournaments.
So yeah, join us a little bit later as we chat about essentially our road to the upcoming Nationals, as well as some tips for the event that we can give you.
Yeah.
But before that, what you drinking, Douw?
This is some sort of white wine that came with my U-Cook this week.
How is that service, by the way? Is it good?
Really good. If you can pick the right meals, it's fantastic. My vegetarian friends who use it have said they've got good choices for that. We don't do red meat, so we've got good for that. Right. And the red meat stuff that they do have is very good. They had Wagyu last week, which is just okay.
Okay. Well, I'm drinking some lovely Japanese red whiskey called Akashi. With a little bit of ice, just to cut it a little bit, but it's still just pretty much whiskey.
Yeah.
So cheers.
Cheers.
And yeah, so let's roll on over to a wild news headline where you are departing from the Cinnamon Islands, if you recall, after
some volcano exploded.
Yeah. And all the pancakes were forevermore pre-cinnamoned. And you're heading back to the shore when you decide that the next town along the route, I was actually looking through the traditional path, and I realized we'd actually missed a town on our way. And so you're going to head towards there now. You're going to start journeying towards Lavender Town, which would have actually been just before the Cinnabar Islands. Cinnamon Islands.
Okay. Yes. Yeah.
Because there's no gym there, you see. Just side quests, which is why I didn't stumble upon it.
Okay, it's the sidey route sort of thing.
Yeah. So now that because you got your mask, your RGB mask, which apparently is the MacGuffin that does everything in this game, it'll allow you to see the ghosts. Bluish red town. I don't know what's the thing for lavender. Bluish red.
Violet town.
Violet. Molmin purple town.
Oh yeah, Molmin purple town.
Molmin purple town. And on your way there, you're just about to enter the town. A sort of somber mood sort of starts to come over you because Molmin Purple Town's known for its somber nature.
It's crushed dreams after X-Wing tournaments.
When suddenly, jumping from the trees, is an extremely violent monkey blocking your way.
Oh no!
Because our first news headline is Marvel's next TV series is about an incredibly violent monkey, and it's out there.
Yeah, so it's called Monkey Assassin or something like that.
Yeah, Hit Monkey is it?
Hit Monkey.
Yeah,
Hit Monkey. That's great. I saw the trailer for it. It looks interesting. I'm not familiar enough with the comics to know where that kind of fits in and which sort of pantheon, I suppose, is the correct term to use.
It's its own pantheon, essentially.
Okay.
Because it's about a Japanese snow monkey who teams up with the ghost of an American assassin.
Okay.
And they team up to battle the Yakuza because that's what you do.
Of course.
And weirdly, so this is the strange part to me, is the show's going to premiere on Hulu.
Yeah.
Like, didn't they get their own streaming service?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, like they've outsourced stuff before, and I mean, if it's a new IP, there's probably some sort of like thing that they put in that's like, cool, the rights are instantly ours in comparison to like what happened with Netflix and etc. So,
well, the only thing I could sort of imagine, instead of them putting it on like Disney Plus, is because it's more like adult and serious.
it could
But
be,
even,
but I mean, like
or it was a done deal long before Disney Plus. That's the only.
I mean, like if you talk about adult things, I mean, like since WandaVision and stuff, like,
Mandalorian is pretty adult. Like,
it's still
it's a Disney Plus.
It's still kid friendly in a way. Like it's
That's
Star Wars. You can't really go too
off the rails
there, sort of like thing. You know, there's a reason that like lightsabers cauterize as they chop you up. But yeah, it could also be because I mean, like Hulu's done a lot of the newer adult-ish animations, so that could be it as well.
That's very possible. Is that they just snagged it up, and I guess when you have such a big wheelhouse like Marvel, you maybe want to, whoever takes it, right? So if maybe Disney Plus didn't want to fund it, and
it could also be a thing of them where they can be like, well, it didn't do well. It's not canon.
Yeah. We don't need to do the Hit Monkey Avengers crossover that we were planning in the works.
Yeah. You know, we don't need to bring them in using the What If series.
yeah. Which I'm enjoying, by the way. I don't know if you've watched any of them.
I haven't, but I have been reading all the synopsis. So.
Okay, so you're vaguely up to date. I've been enjoying the storylines. I mean, they're very much the sort of back burner storylines or something, but I like they've
like they're going somewhere with it, and there's like some interesting what ifs in there. I think the big one there is just that the Doctor Strange episode where they're like, is this a hint for what's going to happen in the new Spider-Man movie?
Yeah, it's very possible. Or it could just entirely be a red herring. But yeah, so Hit Monkey will premiere on November 17th, so it's only a few months away. And they're premiering all episodes at once, so you can binge watch it.
Oh, nice.
As is this day and age.
The Netflix model, which is interesting because I mean, like the current Marvel stuff is all weekly. So
yeah, they seem to have stuck to the old school ways, and I'm still used to the old school ways because anime still screens that way.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I need to watch the season finale of My Hero Academia.
Oh, is it out? Like I
think it was public holiday in Japan yesterday, so they released the finale on it.
So because I was up to date until that episode, so finally caught up. It took forever.
Crunchyroll was like, "Oh, the finale's out for you. You better watch it." I'm like, "What? It isn't Saturday yet."
Okay, cool. I must check that out as well because it's on my list of to watches. Okay. How are you dealing with Hit Monkey?
Well, I'm not part of the Yakuza, so...
How do you prove that to him?
I don't have any tattoos, Greg.
that means nothing. You could be an undercover.
No, you have to have tattoo if you're part of the Yakuza. That's the hidden Yakuza law. Also, I can see his ghost. I'll just explain to his ghost companion. He's American, so he'll understand.
There we go. You got it. You solved the riddle. You can see the ghost, and you explain to him, and he lets you through.
Yeah.
Entering into Moleman Purple Town. Where
it's for everyone around there. It's the first purple you find.
Yeah. The most convenient purple available at that moment is Moleman Purple. So in Moleman Purple Town, there is the very famous tower, which would normally be named after an IP. So instead, we're going to call it non-IP infringing monster concatenated tower because it would be the first half of the name. So it just rolls off the tongue. Nimk Tower.
So it's a wild news headline. So what's it like? It's...
Oh yeah, news headline tower. It's like a news tower. It's just a big transmission tower.
Yeah, it looks vaguely like it could have been the Daily Bugle in another universe, but it isn't.
Non-IP infringing news agency tower. And guarding the door of the tower, right? So this is your next challenge you must overcome. Is a very sharply dressed Russian woman and she refuses to let you in until you beat her at a game of chess. Because the next news headline is chess star sues Netflix because Queen's Gambit erased her accolades.
Oh. Okay, so I suppose like she was the first like woman grandmaster, etc. sort of thing.
So this is Nona Gaprindashvili, a Russian chess grandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
And she's suing Netflix $5 million because of a single line they said in the show. And that single line was it was by an announcer in the show who just offhandedly says, like during one of the main matches or whatever, he offhandedly comments and says, "Oh, there's Nona Grashbildjistashvili." Sorry, I mangled your name, Nona. But she's the female world champion and has never faced men. And at that stage, which was 1968, she had both faced and defeated many men in chess of the grandmaster level. So she took that as an extreme slight.
I mean, considering all kind of things that she probably had to deal with in order to get there, and in Russia in that era, like Cold War Russia sort of like thing, like, you know, on the cusp of like all the various wars in America. Well, all the American wars like on the cusp in the background. I think like it's near Afghanistan the first time, isn't it? So it's there's a lot of like things there. I can see why she'd be a little bit angry about that.
Can you imagine watching that show and then you hear your name mentioned, you're like, oh, they mentioned me, and then they get it wrong, and you're like,
oh no. I didn't work hard for this. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Like, it's, I mean, I'm sure they thought when they were doing it. I don't know though.
Well, because I mean, they obviously wanted to accentuate the fact that the fictional main character was facing men, right?
So, question: is that a thing that comes up in the book?
I do not know. I've never read it.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to ask, actually, because maybe the book was trying to make some sort of weird message.
Oh, to kind of, I don't know who the author of the book is, sort of like thing, because it could have been an American sort of like thing of being like, oh, well, we'll play this down kind of thing, going even further into, yay, you know, superpowers fighting.
The weird thing to me is, if you've gone to all the time and trouble to find the name Nona Gaprindashvili and like research a famous female chess player of the time, you'll know that she's accomplished this feat.
Why would you think more than they just went into Google and went like famous female chess player
1960.
Yeah. Like there's the writers, I think, sometimes are quite guilty of just being like, oh, well, that's a cool thing, we'll just throw it in there and we'll get a pop from, you know, chess nerds. And it's like, no, you're not going to get it here.
It's the opposite effect. Chess nerds know. They realize that kind of thing. How dare they? They dishonor the memory of Nona. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Two arms.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with her. Like, if you've sort of like gone through all of that, and it's like the 60s and a time where women were really trying to kind of get themselves established on the global platform, like equal with like their male counterparts, like, yeah, like you know that she's been through a lot of shit during that time. So to have that kind of like just kind of offhanded sort of like thing in there, that's not great. And I mean, it's on a multi-million, it's streamed everywhere. Like, yeah.
Do you know what would be a good way for them to make up for it, Netflix? Is do a sequel of Queen's Gambit where it's all around Nona. And then like they show that announcer getting fired or whatever for getting his facts wrong.
Yeah.
And she's this like other rising star with parallel storyline.
Such a huge retcon. I think
really a retcon. It just has to be a parallel storyline, right?
It is a retcon there, because you're retconning like that thing there. It is a retroactive changing of the thing.
The guy was obviously incorrect. In 1968, she wasn't.
Yeah, exactly. I think in there, like, I wouldn't be surprised if some budding documentary director doesn't tag onto this and make the real queen sort of like thing there, and it just follows her life and kind of there.
The true queen.
yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's not something that's going to like happen in the next bit. And I wouldn't be surprised like if Netflix aren't the people who are like, instead of 5 million, we'll do this and we'll give you like some of the rights to it, sort of like thing. But
good way to settle and make themselves money.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed benevolent in it all.
We're
so sorry about this mistake. We'll make it up to you by telling your story.
Yeah, let us make it right. You know, for all those people who watch the show, we'll recommend this documentary to them to tell them the true fact.
Yeah.
Now that would go a long way to making it a bit better for me, at least, if I was in her shoes, I suppose. Like, yeah, but I don't know.
Like, again, like, I think that's going to happen regardless. I think it might not necessarily be a Netflix show that does it. It might be like an HBO special or something like that, just to kind of like dig the knife in of it. But I completely understand where she's coming from. Like,
I think everyone pretty much does, which is why Netflix doesn't really have a leg to stand on. Most people will be like, yeah, Netflix. The writers should have done their research a little bit better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It'll just be like that intern that we tossed with this. Yeah. And they're already fired.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay, so how are you beating the chess master?
I'm not going to beat her. I'm going to stand in solidarity with her, and I'm going to get a petition going with her.
You set up a solidarity thing and stay there for a month, fighting for her cause. You make good friends with her, Ms. Nona Gaprindashvili. And hopefully a few more people know her name now and get the facts right.
Indeed.
And yeah, she eventually is your good friend and lets you through. You've defeated her challenge through friendship.
Yeah. The power.
Because you had no chance.
No, exactly. I mean, I played well in like primary school, but nonsense.
But you're no Nona.
Nope.
So you start moving your way up news headline tower, and there's a whole lot of ghosts that you've got to sort of work your way through and resolve their issues and solve their murderers and speak to their loved ones and tell them messages from beyond the grave.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of funny because I've been playing. I remember the damn name of the thing now. Let me see if I can quickly pull it up here. I think it's like Kenna. I think it is called.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
The Spirit Bridge. Find it there. That's basically that story. So
okay, cool. Yeah, so you've got practice. You know how to do it. And you get
Bridge of Spirits, Canada Bridge of Spirits. It's really good.
Nice. Okay, solid recommendation. On Steam,
Epic Games Store for now, and PlayStation.
Okay.
It was one of the release titles that were kind of like shown off for the upcoming for the PS6, and it's only finally released now. So
fair enough. Okay, so you make your way finally to the top of the comms tower, and there is the mayor of Fuji. His name is Mayor Fuji of Mole Min Purple Town. He's been waiting for a month now.
How many Minecraft streams has he had to be in to be the mayor of Minecraft Purple Town?
So many. And he's being held captive by none other than Team SpaceX.
We haven't seen them for a while.
Because their next headline is the Russians, again, because we're on the Russian team, to beat Tom Cruise to shooting the first ever movie filmed in actual space.
Yeah, I was led on to like that article as well. That's a very interesting one. Of like, we're just gonna make a movie in space. Screw those guys who did the Apollo. It was Apollo 13 or Apollo 11 movie where they were like in the vomit comet, like most of the movie.
Apollo 11.
Yeah,
because that was the tragedy of Apollo. But yeah, so for those who haven't seen the article, Tom Cruise is planning to shoot a movie in space on the International Space Station, but no details of that is available yet. And the Russians, on the other hand, have gotten way ahead of him because they are already have a script and everything for a movie called The Challenge, which is telling the story of a Russian doctor who's sent to the space station to save the life of a cosmonaut.
Okay.
And they're actually going to film it on the space station, which
that's cool.
Is cool, but also seems frivolous.
It does, but I mean, at the moment, it's like it's the age of the new space race.
Yeah,
and you know, at the moment, it's all the megacorps that are kind of doing it instead of the countries. So I'm sure the countries are now kind of going like, actually, you know, we need to get some pride in our countries back and do this ourselves, and start tethering asteroids and bringing them back to make billions.
Yeah, so all of the minerals for free. Well,
free. When we have a space elevator, maybe then, Greg.
just lob it down to the earth. It'll be fine, right? Just make sure you aim it right, and nothing will go wrong. They could make a movie about it.
And like film it in space.
Film it in actual space.
Oh, these special effects are so realistic. When do we tell? No.
So yeah, it's a 12-day mission to shoot the movie. Well, at least the portions in the space station.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're going via a Russian-launched Soyuz spaceship, piloted by Anton Shkaplerov. Because if I haven't mangled enough Russian names today, this is another one. Who is a veteran cosmonaut. And there's also backup crew for the ISS going up at the same time, so it's not just a wasted trip.
Okay, well, that's cool. And if you saw that one recently with the, because like I mean we've had the things with the guys going up in space with Bezos's thing, and then the Virgin one as well, where they kind of they hit, I forget, I can't remember my damn like space terms of like the different spheres. Where they briefly went into the outer like sort of sphere there, and then
or whatever
like recently, I think the SpaceX were just like, 3 days in space for people, proper space, orbiting the Earth at 30 minutes like for an orbit. That's how you do it. But
yeah. They've got to do it properly.
To me, it's always interesting is there like anyone who's read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books, you'll know like how to fly is you have to like throw yourself at the Earth and miss. And that's effectively just what the space station is always doing. And that's why everyone's weightless. It's not actually that there's no gravity, which I was a really like interesting, like, whoa, that's actually how that works sort of thing to discover and like physics things. And that I know from that scene in Star Wars with the bombs that they released from the bomber in the second of the new trilogy, and it falls down, and everyone was like, that's not how bombs work. It's like, no, that's exactly how bombs work in space at that close to a planet.
Momentum.
But I think it's interesting to see like that we're in a new space race sort of like thing. I know that there's a lot of talks of like moon bases at the moment and all kinds of weird things. So
so we'll see where it goes.
Still want a space elevator, damn
it. No, that's the cash money solution, and it'll certainly make filming movies in space a lot cheaper.
It'll make everything. I mean, like your power is ridiculously more efficient. Your space travel is ridiculously more efficient. It's just, I suppose the technology is just not there.
Not yet, but they're working on it. They're certainly working on it.
I mean, I don't know, like the Japanese government had like big plans for it, and then like the recession hit, and
but also it might be a simple case of they're sort of trying to get a material that's strong enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's the main thing there, and I mean, like,
it might just be they're looking at the wrong kind of material. Like,
I think the other thing there is they're not necessarily doing space elevators as much as space hooks at the moment,
which also. Pretty useful.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more logistically intensive than a space elevator, but still massive reductions in solar system travel, at least.
Yes.
But So how are you defeating Team SpaceX? They do like a cool action GNU Force pose.
I point out that well, who is Tom Cruise? Who's even Tom Cruise using to get into space? Is he using SpaceX for it? Is he using another thing?
The only thing he has stated is that he's filming a movie on the International Space Station.
Okay, well, clearly, I doubt that they'll let SpaceX do that joining sort of thing in there. And the Russians have just beaten them there, and I point that out to them. So this whole thing is not going to prevent them from getting Tom Cruise up there first. He's still going to lose, which means they lost by extrapolation.
There's the guy's like, what? And then his phone rings and he's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Musk. and then the phone detonates and they all blast off into the sky. Ding! And you rescue Mayor Fuji and lead him back down safely to his mole town. Congratulations. Nice. You've made it to the end of Wild News Headline today.
Hooray! Successfully.
Successfully. And learned the secrets of the media tower and apparently resolved a whole lot of unresolved ghost problems.
Yeah. That's for the filler arc in 100 episodes.
There'll be an OVA that comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So that's news headline. So let's mosey on over to our main section. Where today we're talking about 40K National.
Indeed. That's that thing that unfortunately didn't happen last year because...
Because reason.
Because Nurgle.
Which is why this 40K Nationals, there's such a strong showing of Nurgle players.
Clearly. Yeah. Seven Death Guard players.
7.
And that one... But you know what's throwing you guys off? There's that one Chaos Demons player who's got a Morty in his list. So,
but it's not an official Nurgle list.
But it's got a Death Guard detachment. And he's his Warlord.
Is it his Warlord?
It has to be. It's Mortarion.
There's a Death Guard list in the system.
And Mortarion says I am your Warlord, unless there's another person who could be Warlord like Magnus.
Well, it's fine because they are still 7. Do you know why? Because I'm playing Depth Guard.
Very completely different. Yeah. It's interesting seeing that there are so many Nurgle players. I wouldn't have really expected it, by looking at international sort of things. But I suppose we're all all those Star Collecting boxes and those Space Marine and Death Guard box sets that we didn't paint up the Death Guard section of. Well, I suppose we can paint that up now during a certain
lockdown
thing. So,
I mean, that's how I ended up playing the Depth Guard, right? It was my entire lockdown project of assembling, painting, designing, building.
A good project to have.
Yeah, it worked out, and I hope to show it off on the day.
No, they'll look good. I'm surprised that I'm the only Adeptus Sororitas player at the tournament. I was expecting I know there's at least a Krugersdorf player, and then I know the other sort of the 3+ player with Nseko with Dark Angels, but
so
it's a bit of a.
I think there's less Adeptus Sororitas players because they're quite a new army, and you need quite a big investment to just suddenly be a Sisters player, right? You can't just.
Yeah, I mean, they're cheaper than they used to be because all the Star Collectings are very efficient for getting a base force going. So I mean, if you got the special edition, I'm a bit sad that I got the special edition one because I got this cool looking codex that was outdated within a year. It was oh,
T-dubs!
Yeah, but I mean, the contents of the box were still great for other things. And I mean, I bought a Star Collecting, which is the same contents again, because I was like, well, if it works well once, it will work well twice. But yeah, interesting to see not more of them. But as you say, I think the investment, particularly because it's if you don't have more than Vol, your Sisters lists aren't really doing very well at the moment. So
not only do you need lots of models, because they're quite I mean, I don't want to call them a horde army, but they are more than Space Marines, right?
Yeah, and they can be. I mean, that's the whole thing of them. It's it's a Volter at 8 points less sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
And then you need all those new releases of like Morgenval and the Paragon suits. And
you don't really, so the suits not so much, but the sacrosancts are just like prolific. Like I don't think there's many international tournament faring well lists that don't have the sacrosancts in them.
Yeah.
Which also brings on to like the bodyguard rule, which I hope they don't update in the 2 weeks to the tournament.
Well, we're probably in that stage
locked down of like rules changing now won't affect the tournament sort of thing. But
I suspect so.
Yeah, that rule needs to be changed so badly.
Yeah, no, it's kind of really wibbly wobbly. What was I came up with a solution last night, but I can't remember what I said it was.
The attack goes against that unit instead.
Oh yes, yeah. It'll just instead of blocking a character entirely from an attack using bodyguard, you instead the attack automatically redirects to the bodyguard, which seems a lot fairer, right? Because they're literally getting in the way of the attack. And stops those weird shenanigans of hiding them out of line of sight, and then your characters are immune in the open.
It's like, hey, I'm in the open, I'm just going to shoot you now. What? No multi-melt is for me.
Yeah.
Which is weird. And I mean, like, even there, that thing we discovered when we were playing last night of like, Celestine and her character unit, where you just put like a person within and string her out.
Easy chain them out. And then suddenly they're invulnerable because there's a guy with a shield on the other side of the map.
Yeah, I mean, like, because that's like what? Because you can put 2 inches space between, so it'd be 2. The base is another 1, so it's like 6, and then 3. So you can put her like 9 inches away from the unit and still have it being protected.
Yeah.
What? So yeah, and I mean, like, there's not many factions that have that, but there are a couple of others, because the Space Marines had it in 2 different versions. There's the Vitrix Guard for Ultramarines do it as well, and then there's the Terminate. There's like one set of Terminators for the Dark Angels that can do it as well, and that one's particularly nasty because you put them behind line of sight blocking, and you put like Masters of the Hunt. And then there's like, cool, well, you can't shoot us, but we're going to multi-melt, and it's nonsense.
Yeah, even the Talon Master, because he's got a million shots and is a character.
Exactly.
And he always hits on 2s or whatever, because he's got the fancy relic or whatever.
So yeah, there's a couple of weird things in there. And I mean, like, I don't think anyone's abused it as much as the Sisters have recently. But I suspect we'll see changes to it. Maybe if the rumored Tau do come in January when the new drones arrive and break everyone's minds about it.
Reinvent the rule with the drones.
Yeah.
Might be a good way.
Although, also, if you think about it, like because also the other rumored one is Gene Stealers, and how the Gene Stealers do their bodyguard, because it is literally like, I kill the guy.
In fact, that is exactly it. I didn't even think of that. Gene Stealers have the rule of, well, the wounds just go on the Gene Stealers, the cultists instead.
Exactly. So,
but that would make sense. I wonder why they moved away from that. They had a perfectly workable system. What's wrong with them?
Because no one plays Gene Stealers, Greg. They're too complicated. Too complicated.
I would totally be bringing them to nationals if they were. I think they're probably my favorite faction in 40k at the moment.
I mean, they just do a lot of other weird nonsense shenanigans. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it might not come off right, but it's cool, you know.
Exactly.
And the whole like, well, we don't place anything down, it's just blips. And yeah, they're a very cool faction for those kinds of things. And like other like interesting things to see. I mean, there's the usual Space Marines all over the show, but like it's the modern
normal, I would say.
It's all Death Guard.
Because in the last nationals we did play, I'm pretty sure it was about like 50% Space Marine.
I remember. Yeah, but I mean that was like end of 7th. Oh no, it was start of 8th. It was start of 8th.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, everyone was just playing like those horrible big blobs of chaos that were like there, or Drukari were the other ones, and Knights were doing really well on that, like as well.
Yeah, I was playing Custodes and Knights.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah. But like the Space Marine's always prolific. Like it's there. Everyone has a Space Marine army,
which is why I'm surprised there's so few of them at that.
I think everyone, like, because, as we sort of said there, like, everyone has a Space Marine and Death Guard army at the moment. Or
so like, I'm tired of these guys. I'm going to try these other Space Marines.
What was the 9th starter?
Dirty Space Marines.
What Necrons. Yeah, and that's the other thing, Crons.
There's a lot of Crons.
There's a lot more Crons than I would have expected, because they're not exactly a strong army at the moment.
But they are cool and fun. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, there's a lot of interesting things, even if it is just we're all the same. It's the same dynasty always that's arriving.
The competitive dynasty, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, you expect that at nationals. You're always going to see the competitive choice.
Yeah, I could think like the nationals in Gauteng prior to the one that I last ran, like. That was still in the era of the Lions Guard and what was the stupid detachment where you just got like free transports for everyone, where effectively like you'd be like, okay, well, everyone's playing with 2,000 points, but me as a Space Marine, I'm playing with 3,000 points.
Transports.
What? So. Yeah, I think like Space Marines are always around. They're always strong. There's always like
they're always
them. Right? I think perhaps is just like as 9th sort of like progressed a little bit, they've dropped off because everyone's like damage 2 weapons and murder late them all sort of like thing. I think maybe the Space Marine players have been like looking for a different itch to scratch, and they've had a year to paint up the new army. So yeah.
And yeah, in general, I think
they look to be all like Dreadnought armies as well, from what I've been looking at. So yeah, and I mean, like the Dreadnought army of like the -1 damage is just so good, so very good, especially because everyone's switched over to this damage 2 meta because it gets rid of Marines. Now it's like, well, cool, damage 2 against my Dreadnought is damage 1, and it's less shots probably. So. Yeah, no. I just also realized there's no Tau player.
Yeah, no, I briefly considered it. Briefly.
I know you did. You played that like one list, and then
and it was just, and I think I even won that game. But still,
you did. But still, like I don't know, like they're just not. They don't play the 9th game.
Yeah, you have to do very specific things, and it's always the same thing, and that makes it unfun for me. You can't.
And it's like, do you have drones everywhere? Okay, now you have a chance of winning, but otherwise, like, cool, guys are just going to ignore you, sit on objectives, and laugh you off, and take out your Riptide, and then your big damage 3 is out of the way, and then missiles, okay, but the -1 damage makes D3 just not as good. It's
also D3.
I think also Fire Warrior is a little bit too expensive.
They're way overcosted
in the modern pricing. Like a Battle Sister is like dirt cheap and like so much better than one. And I think they're pretty points efficient equivalents. So.
That's an interesting thing to me, is how little AdMech players there are.
Again, I think that's an expensive army thing. Because if you look at the AdMech lists that are doing well overseas, it's all it's that Skitarii detachment, which I mean the Skitarii aren't necessarily the most expensive part of that, but the Iron Striders are.
Even with the Iron Strider nerf, they're still good. So.
Yeah, exactly. You're not using like 9 of them, but you're still using 3 of them. And like there's a lot of like the new stuff, because I mean it's like the Patraxi. Like everyone has big units of Patraxi. It's weirdly enough the Infiltrators these days,
really
which is kind of cool.
Glad I assembled a unit of them all that way back when.
Yeah, same. I'm like, I don't know, my AdMech is so, I don't know, in drips and drabs. I'm just like, nah, they can get to some point. Also, I hate how good they are in this edition.
Kind of feels cheesy.
And it's weird as well, because I mean, like they're still complex, but they're not, like, the decisions that make their complexity is always the same.
Oh yeah, pre-decided, exactly. It's almost like our problem, in that if you want to play AdMech competitively, you're kind of forced into one sort of play style.
Exactly, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm playing Mars because I want to have the Psalms on them. I'm gonna have this like the special unit, like army of Skitarii, because I ignore the penalty with there, and everyone's got a 5-up invul, and again, like your decisions aren't as difficult. I think like when like previous edition, they were very difficult to play. There's a lot of like decisions to make, and like, okay, I'm gonna have to go into this now, I have to do this, and I'm gonna give this bonus, then I take this penalty. And now for the current army, it's kind of like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this penalty, but I'm gonna ignore it on my 2 strongest units.
On all the people it's relevant on, I'll ignore it.
And I'm just gonna like wipe out this and then wipe out that sort of thing. It feels, to me, they feel kind of like 7th Ed Tau did, which was very like, okay, there's a little bit of difficulty in knowing where to place yourself, but once you've got that down, you're pretty much just, you point and delete. So it becomes a very point and click army.
So one of the other reasons I ruled them out actually was I have enough Skitarii to do the Skitarii swarm, but I didn't want to play a swarm army in an event where game time is limited.
And game time is limited after a year of not playing.
Yeah.
Like in meat space, like it's a problem. I'm also a bit like right in there. Like personally, I'm going to be asking all of my opponents to be like, let's just leave the clock aside, sort of like thing, unless they're playing a horde army, and then I'm going to be like,
then you're like, please be on the clock. With all your slow moving and no movement trays.
Exactly. And I mean, like I have that as a problem because like I'm playing Sisters, which is like, as you said, it's not a horde army, but there's a lot of different units. Like,
and you got to think about all the choices.
I'm always like, I'm like 5 more drops than everyone else.
Right? So your choices do change. So it's not just this prayer here, this prayer here, this prayer here. It's okay, this turn I need this prayer to be here and this prayer to be here, and this person needs to give that buff to this person.
Yeah. Command phase, which lasts like an hour.
Yeah.
You
need a flow chart.
I do. I'm
so you're winning, so you're losing. And then you just follow the flow.
Yeah. Which I mean, like, that brings up an interesting thing, like, moving away from, like, the army stuff just for a little bit, is just talking about, like, the secondaries and stuff. So we know what missions there are going to be. And they're a good mix. A few more, like, hold 2, hold 3 than I would have liked, but that makes it a bit more interesting, I suppose.
Yeah, I find hold 2, hold 3 missions actually get more engagement, right?
Yeah.
It's less, we're just going to sit back and hope my secondaries outweigh your secondaries. As opposed to, okay, I've got to take that middle one. Otherwise I'm not getting my hold 3.
Well, I mean, it makes that interesting one of, like, what a lot of the channels online do, like, sort of thing where they, before the game, they go like, well, I'm ahead on secondaries, you have to be the aggressor, I know you have to be, sort of like that. And I think that's a really good way of going about it. I would also suggest many players kind of like look at all things and be like, okay, well, what are my secondaries? I think a lot of people now, with the way that Ninth builds lists, you kind of build with certain secondaries in mind, like whether it's like Rod or Engage on All Fronts or your army specific ones, because there's a couple of armies that are like, yep, that's pretty good. To me, like, going back into the army sort of stuff, it's kind of interesting to see the Thousand Sun guys, because that army is very new, and is not an easy army. Like, it looks like it's such a finicky one, which, I mean, that, I think in 6 months, a year's time, that army is going to be such a pain to go against, because everyone's going to like know exactly what they need to do, because they've seen all the different possibilities and thing, and be like, yes, I need to do this spell, or this unit needs to do this sort of thing. But at the moment, it's very like, okay, well, I've got all these Kabbalistic ritual points, and I've got all these spells, and I need to do all these things, and
it literally adds a layer of complexity to your psychic phase with the Kabbalistic rituals, because it's almost like a second entirely separate set of stratagems that you have to know all of to apply at the same time, right? Because what I normally do with an army is I always prepare a little cheat sheet of strategy, ones I'm likely to use. So when I practiced 1,000 Suns a few times just to test to see if I wanted to maybe take them to nights. And I had to do a whole separate sheet of Kabbalistic rituals with a separate tracker of like costs and stuff, because it's its own system.
To me, what might be interesting is just seeing how many Death Guard players there are, is how many of the Thousand Sun go against them, because they've pretty much guaranteed got like 15 points in secondary for the Wrath of Magnus one. Because it's like, well, your one Psyker has to do kill more units, models rather, than my entire Psychic army. every turn.
Grey Knights had that exact same problem. In that most of the things I was facing always took a Bore the Witch.
Bore the Witch, yeah, exactly.
So,
I mean, like, you're tanky enough that it's like, cool, they'll get like 10 points because they've killed heavy strike marines
really
and stuff.
Tanky because everyone's takes to damage 2 weapons and Grey Knights don't have any damage reduction. So it would max out every game. Every single Grey Knights game I played, they maxed out a Bore the Witch, which is a little bit too guaranteed for me. Like, I don't like it when people can guarantee their secondary and I can't do anything to stop it. Short of, castling in the corner and not doing any other objectives. And it's like, oh, well, then I'm not winning it all anyways.
Exactly. No, I think there is a Grey Knights player, and it's Andrew, who's played Grey Knights for a couple of editions. So,
although they're very different now.
They are, but I mean, he's always played with Dread Knights as like his sort of fulcrum. So I think it'll suit him well with that. I think it's interesting that they got moved to more defensive instead of offensive in a weird way because of the +1 to deny instead of the +1 to cast.
Oh yeah,
and having a 5 up Feel No Pain instead of the things there.
But their CC's more offensive now.
Yes, much more.
So if anything, Grey Knights is now a CC army.
To me, they're a combined arms army. Like, to me, like they've got good movement, good shooting, and a very good.
They're no AdMech or like concentrated shooting army, but they can certainly put out enough firepower to do damage.
Yeah.
Their main weakness is multi-damage weapons are few and far between.
Yeah. Well, and also, like, it seems like strength 8 outside of close combat is not a thing for them.
Yeah. I mean, their heavy side cannons are strength 8 and can go up to strength 9, but that's maybe 3 in an army if you're pushing Dread Knights. And that's also spending a stratagem, so only one guy can go up to strength 9.
Yeah.
And you need other stratagems other like specific sword bearer powers or whatever or psychic powers to try and support you to at least get more damage.
I suppose, like, to supplement that, you're doing a lot of mortal wounds, but that's at like 18 inches, so it's very mid-board. That's why I say, like, they're very combined arms, because they're in the mid-board, they're shooting and they're close combating you and they're psychicking you. You're doing something in every phase. It's kind of like the Chaos Marine player's wet dream.
Yeah. So definitely. They like to be in engagement in melee range, so they're always going to be in smite range.
Yeah,
they're always going to be stabbing effectively.
I would think it would probably be an army that I would enjoy coming from, like, the Chaos Space Marine sort of like back sort of thing there. But I'm just like, I want my damn Chaos Space Marines. It's interesting to see that there's like 2 World Eater lists.
Yeah, no, I think they're Krugersdorp players. They played in the previous event. I wasn't there, but apparently they're suffering a little bit of codex lag, just a little bit.
More than a little bit. I mean, World Eaters at least have the fun thing of being like, well, they're Khorne Berserker Terminators that are going to attack you twice, and they're Terminators, but they don't have the 3 wings, which is a bit like, no.
Just so sad.
I'm so sad about this.
So I'll happily play against any of the Khorne players.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, I don't know if I did see any, I think there's an Iron Hands list as well.
So that's a combined Iron
Warriors.
Iron Warriors, Thousand Suns list. That's why it's listed as Thousand Suns.
Okay.
The Thousand Suns detachment is the Warlord.
Okay.
But they've got an Iron...
Doesn't get any Kabbalistic ritual because of that.
Yeah, but what they've got instead is a lot of vehicle support in the form of Venom Crawlers.
Iron Hand ones or
Iron Warriors?
Okay, just a weird. Like, to me, one of the most interesting things out of the Thousand Sun army is that their dreads and their rhinos have a 5-up invul, which is just crazy.
Right. Although the Venom Crawlers have the 5-up invul as well.
About bull terms.
The demon engines,
yeah. But yeah, I think that's an interesting little like thing there. I think Chaos next year is going to be a big year for them, and I look forward to it. Like, kind of like unpacking and dusting off a whole bunch of old models, but yeah,
maybe it'll be an excuse for me to start, because I've got my Iron Warriors army, but they're very dusty and very old. So maybe the excuse for my next project is to do a whole custom Iron Warriors army of like Siege Marine.
Yeah, I think I've still got like the starter from the previous edition with the Chaos from there, which I haven't put together. Because it's these guys just aren't good at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like the Indomitus box. I haven't seen Marines. They're in the box.
That was a good box for
but
Marines
I don't have
in the
any
era.
desire to play Marines.
Yeah.
I could assemble them and have played salamanders or something, but so did I.
Yeah. And then another interesting one to see is there's a couple of Nids players as well, which is
look, they can be very strong if played correctly, and the lists they've built seem
so what I've seen, like there's like one that's bringing like Dinocarodrons, and there's another one that has barbed hierodulls and stuff. So they've got the Forge World stuff that's kind of keeping them competitive. They've got some tricks and such, but I think a lot of people, you kind of know when you're going against Nids, it's kind of like, okay, kill the Exocrines and now you're fine. So, or worry about the big Gene Stealer blob.
Yeah, I was about to say, stop the big Gene Stealer blob.
Kill the Exocrines and you're good. Which is unfortunately a bit like, cool, people know what they need to do against them. They don't have any, like, I know, like, it's bad to say they don't have gotchas, because gotchas are nasty things that you shouldn't really have to like deal with, but they don't have gotchas. There's no like, well, your guy's out of position there. I'm going to definitely murder them because I'm going to spend the CP and it's going to do something. They just have like, well, I can do what my army is supposed to do, and I'll hopefully kill that thing. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of gotchas, actually, is another sort of segment I want to get into. We're talking about nationals and just playing at tournaments in general. Is for our viewers, the best way you can play at a tournament of any kind is to play with intent versus playing with gotchas, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
In that you'll find that if you play at a tournament with open communication and just always bringing up any sort of things that would blindside people or anything that any obvious glaring mistake they've made.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can still think back to like previous editions and stuff, like particularly with Tau, with Interceptor Fire, and like you'll like Riptides, whatever, used to be able to just be like, well, pie plate that unit that you just brought in is dead, sort of thing. And it's always the thing of like, you should just speak to your opponent and be like,
hey, by the way,
if you do that,
you shouldn't
I'm
do
gonna
that.
do this sort of like thing. And they'll return the favor as well. Most of the time.
Exactly. So I find it at events like this where it's a long event, especially nationals, which is 2 days.
By game 5, it's always like tensions are high, and it's just
so. If you're having fun, right? If you play by intent, you have a lot more fun because your opponent responds in kind, and also will be like, hey, by the way, I can do this shenanigan, which is going to ruin your day if you do that. And then you're like, yes, thank you for reminding me.
Yeah.
And then it just sort of loosens you up to enjoy the games rather than like getting bad tastes in your mouth, like about rules.
Yeah, exactly. I think a big thing around there kind of goes hand in hand with this is pre-measuring everything. So like if you've got an intent of like, okay, I'm going to charge over there, measure beforehand and be like with your opponent, like, I am 17 inches away from you. I'm going to move 6, which means it's going to be an 11-inch charge, which is really difficult. Instead of like getting to that point and someone bumping something, it's like, oh no, it's 10, or oh no, whatever,
So that's exactly it. Always communicate your intention. So that's exactly it. I'm going to charge. It's going to be an 11-inch charge. Cool. And then as you're about to do that, your opponent might say, oh, hey, wait a second. I've got this stratagem that reduces your charges by 2. Are you sure you want to do that?
Now impossible.
Yeah. I could make it impossible for you. And you go, well, I want you to spend the CP, so I'm still going to do it. Like exactly. The option's always there. And then you respond likewise when he tries to shoot you, and you're like, hey, I can transhuman this unit. Are you sure? Like, I'm going to reduce your damage significantly. And
it's an interesting way, like, it makes it feel very close to more like games like Infinity, where that is exactly the thing of it. Like, it's like, well, I'm trying to move over here. Can you see me as I move across here? Because I don't want you to shoot me. I can.
Is there anything I'm aware of that can see me here?
Yes.
No? Cool. Hidden sniper. Bah!
Yeah. Exactly. So, you know,
like, so that's fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, keep that in mind with there. It also makes the game flow a bit quicker because you can be like, oh, really? Like, I didn't know you had that. Or especially at the moment where we haven't played for a year and a bit in Meat Space, there's a whole bunch of new armies. Ninth is hella complicated.
Yeah, and it's new for a lot of people, right? Because of lockdowns and stuff. Not many people have been playing as much Ninth as they would have by this stage.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I can just think about it, like, the first time someone with like that, like, 30. Well, you can go up to 20 these days, but like 20 Vanguard blob goes like, I wound you on 5s, guaranteed. What? Yeah, or any number of little weird like things and mechanics like that. I think some of the older ones even. I'm going to wait until like the Custodes player goes up against the Death Guard player, and the Death Guard player is like, well, I charge you, and they're like, Tanglefoot bag, and they're like, okay, I don't care. Or like the space, or like orcs as well, because like they've got like a stratagem that they're like, no, I don't care.
No. Well, so even have a stratagem if you're a specific subsection that reduces charges by 2.
So there's a whole bunch of like little weird things that are going to come up, and I think like it doesn't help to have sour grapes at the moment sort of from there, and I think also just be helpful to everyone, because I mean, if you extend that courtesy to your opponent will more than likely extend that courtesy to you. 9 times
out of 10, they'll respond in kind, especially during the course of the game.
Yeah.
And I find as well, being a communicative and gracious opponent adds more luck. Like the second the game turns out, luck goes out of the window.
Yeah.
And then you fail all your saves, it just makes you grumpier. Like the more gracious you are about losses and stuff, the better you're.
Also, you can tilt so much more quickly with that, because I mean, like if you're at least I can think about like our last game that we played, where your zombies dealt 6 mortal wounds or something stupid when they really shouldn't have. And like in a thing there, like if you're in a bad mood with there and you tilt with that, that's your entire game gone. Instead of just being a laugh with your opponent of like, holy crap, what is happening?
What are they feeding those zombies? Like,
yeah, exactly. So
because it is like the second you get tilted and you get angry, you start making tactical mistakes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You stop going by the flow of your intention. You start going out to just kill or to just do things, and you start making like things that are like, oh no, you can't do that, and then you argue, and it just in a timed event, it's just going to be even worse. So.
And then you only get to round 2, and then you're pissed off because I could have won this game if we'd gone to round 3.
Yeah, exactly. It just stacks on. It just stacks on. So
be chill, have a beer.
Well,
wear a mask.
yeah. Have a beer between rounds when you're not at the table.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, have a sip of beer, but put your mask back on.
Yeah.
And then I find other useful things are try and print your roster, because often your phone will be like, your guys have toughness 7 now? What the heck? And then you're like, yeah, if you want to have a look, my roster's right over there. No, generally, that's cool. But it helps to have the option there, as opposed to
it does.
Where it is now.
Yeah, exactly. That's more like the most annoying answers when someone's just like, no, that's just how it is. And you're like, are you sure?
I don't know. I remember they got nerfed or something, and then
exactly.
And then maybe they're misremembering, and then they check and they're like, oh yeah, you're right. They did get nerfed.
We were just talking about like sisters, and the amount of times that I've been playing and like kind of getting ready for the tournament and being like, oh yeah, Celestine still gives out an aura of +1 to invulns. Like, no. Or I've got that stratagem that allows us to do this thing, or this stratagem works this way. In the meantime, it's been like errated to do something quite different. So there's mistakes in space with it. Having it easily available and out there in front of you is really helpful.
It's key.
And it also means that like when your opponent like wants to check something, it could be kind of, because as we say, there's a hell of a lot of gotchas with the new armies. There's a lot of like things that are like, well, I delete that unit, and there's nothing you can really do about it. And it feels very unfair. It can feel even more unfair if you don't have that to show to the person.
If you're not aware of it as an option, right? And it just kind of blindsides you. And you're like, what the heck was that? Like, So that's I suppose another bit of advice is try and get some practice games in before the event if you can.
Not really. I would really love to have had a meat space game before.
Yeah, to practice just moving models.
I think I might just get my dining room table out and just put all the models out and just move them and stuff. And be like,
used to the feeding, right? I had one meat space game with Grey Knights, and that was my final decision game of, you know what, I have fun playing them, I can play them competitively, but I want to do my depth guard because I put more effort into them.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's always it's a weird one with like people who have more than one list. We obviously have our favorites and like our pet, like, oh yes, this army when the tides shift and stuff. But it makes an interesting thing of like the choice being like, oh well, these guys are both competitive, but I prefer this.
Exactly.
It's nice when you can have that decision as well.
Yeah.
The worst thing is like when you're forced into certain choices.
Yeah, when
it's
you
like,
play Genestealer Cults and Tau, you're like,
oh no. Yeah, well, I mean, like my Tau haven't. I don't think I've played a single 9th edition game with Tau.
Yeah, I've played 1 or 2, and 1 or 2 of Genestealer Cults.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I don't think I've lost any of them. But Genestealer Cults games, I always was wiped by the end of the game, but still.
Yes. Good point. You've played enough Infinity to know how to play the objective game.
Play in Loss of Lieutenant.
Yeah. No, exactly. So I don't know. I think ebbs and flows and sort of stuff. It's there's always going to be there. It's the nice thing of like reasons to start up new armies, but there's something for proficiency as well. You look at the Custodians players who are doing really well at the moment because it's just a good army.
Yeah, exactly. And if
you know what you can do,
ever played them and knows that codex inside out,
you
know every single stratagem off by heart, can call them to like know when exactly to use them at the perfect timing. That'll give you a serious advantage in a game.
Beautiful.
I don't have that at all with Death Guard.
Nope.
Sorry, Depth Guard. But I've got enough of a rudimentary knowledge to hopefully give it a try.
Yeah, you know, like you're gonna forceful mortar someone every turn if possible, and you're gonna bring back zombies if possible, and everything else is just a bonus.
Exactly. Whatever else comes. And even if so also with these events, as a final bit of advice, if you find yourself losing your first few games, don't be disheartened, because actually some of the best games I've had at these events is if you lose your like first one or whatever, and it takes all the pressure off immediately.
It does.
Like, oh, cool. Now I can just be casual. And then you have like 4 really good games after that, and you kind of third or whatever. But
I can just think of there. It's like there's the nationals that I went undefeated at the 1 nationals, and that was just like such a stressful event because it's just like always like pressure. I'm not playing a Space Marine army with all the objectives secured everywhere. I need to be everything so precise. It was really nice at the other side of it, but like on the thing of there, you know, I've been at other tournaments where, as you say, you lose in the first round. You're like, well, you know, it's easier, like it's a lesser bracket, lesser. It's all everyone's like pretty like there. And at that point, you're in a group with other people who are also like, there's pressure. You can joke about things now.
At the end of the day, it's a game. Like, you're there to have fun. Have fun. Like,
and in particular for this, I know it's a national and there's like prestige and everything like that, but it's also the first big 40k tournament in meat space.
Like, what prestige is it though? The ability to say, I came first. And
there's still things in there being like,
I mean, I suppose there's like a prize.
It's the thing to show, be like, I was the best 40k player post quarantine,
fair enough,
etc.
There's nationals winner.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's things there, like in the future, being like, oh crap, I've been paired up against the nationals guy.
Yeah, oh no, it's him. He won the last nationals.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of like little things in there. But I mean, it's not like GTs overseas, but there's still a local sort of pride in there.
Well, I mean, you've really got to start planning for Into the Fray in November.
They're doing Into the Fray as well.
Yeah, they are. Except I think it's only 1,000 points.
So you're only allowed patrols.
No,
that's 500 points.
It's 2 patrols. It's 2 detachments.
Yeah.
And thing, because that was what it was last time we had an Into the Fray.
I don't even know the 1,000-point missions.
Yeah, they're very similar. They're very
I mean, like, because we've got secondaries,
and Into the Fray always custom missions, anyways. Remember, Pete does
custom-ish. There's always
he adds like extra cool things in.
Yeah.
Ooh, so Maelstrom of
War, Greg. It could be a Maelstrom of War. So weird this edition.
Maybe I'll bring Genestealer Cults. But they won't be released yet. Wow.
They won't be released yet. Yeah, you'll have all the previews because they're coming out in December. So maybe if the rumors are to be believed.
I've got like a box of rubrics and a box of termies I need to paint, and then I'll have 2,000 points of 1,000 Suns. But actually, I probably have 1,000 points of 1,000 Suns available.
Oh, it makes sense. It's 1,000 points for 1,000 Suns.
Perfect.
Anyway.
Okay. Any final words of wisdom, though, before we round up? Last tips.
Good game. Good luck. Good have fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Just have a fun sort of like thing is there. I think.
We need to pioneer, because normally you give like a handshake for like good luck.
Yeah. So I feel like
but the elbow's so boring. We need like some sort of cool thing to do before
exchange
our games.
one dice.
Exchange one dice. The
the plague vector dice.
People would hate that. No, most people would hate that. We need like a cool gang sign or something.
Yeah, clearly. Your suggestions to Geek.
Yeah, if you get any suggestions on the cool gang sign or the cool, no, it can't be a handshake because you've got to be COVID compliant, guys.
Yes.
So some sort of cool sign or like way to wish your opponent luck before the game starts.
Mm-hmm.
Show them respect. It's like an old school Japanese bow before the match begins. Maybe that's a cool idea. I don't know. Samurai style.
Is it 40k? There's no Tau players, Greg.
Should I dress like a pirate? I'm going to dress like a pirate
because I'm a freebooter.
So I'll wear like a Buccaneers hat and what are the like poofy vests?
Poofy vests, yeah.
And then I'll see if I can get a skull and crossbones on my mask. Nice. Yes, this plan is formed.
Nice.
Got to stay in theme with my army.
Yeah. Well, do I need to like flagellate before I arrive?
Lash marks on your back. Somebody had a good evening. You can't see them, but my back is.
You can just see from the blood stains through my shirt.
Just have a priest hat or something. Say some prayers.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks very much for giving a listen. If you're out there and you're going to be at the 40k Nationals, say hi.
Yeah,
we'd love to know. We're going to probably give a follow-up in the next podcast of what everything happened and how things went. So, otherwise, look out for us where you get your podcasts or have them.
Should we mention the actual date of Nationals? Because we never mentioned the actual date.
Date. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's in 2 weeks. It's on the 1st and 2nd.
Beginning of October, yeah. So
yeah.
So
second and third.
After October, Nationals has occurred already, and you have missed it.
Sorry.
But
the advice that goes for most of those armies while they are current and for future tournaments.
Exactly. And you haven't missed Into the Fray unless you're really listening to this in the future. In which case, welcome, person from the future.
We are the past.
We are the past.
Don't tell us about
Future 5.
Cool.
Anyway, tell us how good the Custodians and Gene Stealer cults are.
Yes, please. I wonder what if the Tau come out in January. Is Plastic Darkstrider as cool as we think he'll be? Listen more. Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Goodbye.
We'll catch you around. Ciao.